I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, spilling my guts on some Reddit thread, but here I am. Maybe it's because I need to get this off my chest, or maybe I just want someone to tell me I'm not crazy. Though honestly, I feel pretty damned crazy right now. It started a week ago during my grandmother's funeral. She was the kind of woman who kept everyone in line, who made sure family dinners had enough mashed potatoes, and who'd slap you upside the head if you dared to disrespect her. So naturally, everyone was shattered when she passed. It was supposed to be a quiet, somber day, just family tears, hollow words about celebrating her life and all that crap. I was sitting in the backyard trying to breathe through the heaviness pressing down on my chest when my phone buzzed. I glanced at it and saw a message from my wife, Lisa. She'd been acting a little distant lately, but I figured that was just grief or exhaustion. The message was quick, almost casual. Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you. I froze. My heart skipped a beat, but I told myself maybe it was just a typo or a mistake. Then I remembered she'd been texting someone else a lot lately, some guy named Mark. I'd seen their messages in the morning, long conversations about plans, about how his brother was coming into town and how they'd meet up soon. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe I was paranoid, but now I knew better. That message from her, right there during my grandmother's funeral, hit me like a punch in the gut. I looked around, my stomach tight, palms sweaty, trying to keep my composure. I caught her eyes from across the yard, and she looked away fast like she knew I saw. Heart pounding, I slipped my phone into my pocket and pretended to look at a flower arrangement. But I knew. I knew everything I needed to know. Later that night, I stayed quiet through the wake. That's when I found a thread of messages she hadn't deleted. It was on her phone, still open. I scrolled through the chat, each word stabbing me harder. She was talking about how she couldn't wait to see him again, how her body tingled just thinking about being with him. She called him babe, said she missed him, and worst of all, she had plans to meet him tomorrow, right after I left for work. My stomach twisted like a knot and I could feel my jaw tighten. I clenched my fists so hard I thought my nails might dig into my palms. I wanted to scream, to shake her until she told me I was wrong, but I didn't. Instead, I just sat there, the pain sinking in deep. My mind raced. How long has this been going on? Was I blind or just stupid enough to ignore the signs? It was all right there, evidence I couldn't deny. Her phone, her words, their secret plans. The betrayal was worse than I'd imagined. This wasn't some fleeting mistake. It was an affair, right under my nose during the worst day of my life. And she didn't even bother to hide it, not really. I couldn't sleep that night. My body felt like lead, my stomach churned, and every time I closed my eyes I saw her messages, that stupid grin she wore when she thought she was being clever. I kept asking myself, what the hell am I supposed to do now? How? Do I even look at her the same way again? But I knew one thing, I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without some kind of retaliation. I'd been betrayed, humiliated in the worst way, and I was damn sure I'd make her regret crossing that line. I sat there in the dark, feeling the weight of my rage boiling inside me, knowing that this was just the beginning. The ugly truth had come out and I was planning my move. I needed a plan, something that would hit her where it hurt, something she wouldn't see coming. And I was just starting to figure out what that would be. But first I had to keep my cool, act like everything was normal, while deep down I was already plotting. Because betrayal like this isn't just a slap in the face, it's a knockout punch. And I was ready to land mine. The next morning I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. My stomach was still twisted from the night before, but now there was a new fire burning inside me. I couldn't sit still. I knew I had to do something. And quick. I had to gather evidence, plan this out carefully. No rash moves, because once I did, there'd be no turning back. I decided to start by going through her stuff, her phone, her emails, anything that could give me more insight into her plans. I didn't want to look like I was snooping, but if I was going to get revenge, I had to know exactly what she was up to. Her phone was right there on the nightstand, shining softly in the morning light. I hesitated for a second, then grabbed it. Her password was obvious, her birthday. It took just a few keystrokes to unlock it, and I started scrolling. There I found the usual, texts with her friends, some shopping lists, and a few photos she'd saved from Instagram. But then buried in between was a message thread with Mark. I didn't need to read much, just enough to see the pattern, the tone, the intimacy. They were talking about meeting up that very weekend, sneaking around behind my back. She called him babe again. She told him she was tired of waiting, that she wanted to be with him for good. My stomach dropped further. All the clues from last night suddenly clicked into place. She planned this right under my nose during the funeral of my grandmother. That pain, that grief, I'd been so vulnerable and she'd taken advantage of it. My fingers clenched the phone so hard I thought I might break it. I closed her phone and sat on the edge of the bed trying to slow my breathing. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't just confront her blindly. I needed a solid plan. I had to turn her betrayal into her worst nightmare. I spent the next few hours drafting what I would do. I wanted it to be precise, calculated, no messy fights, nothing that could backfire. First, I needed proof, more than just her messages. I decided to set up a hidden camera in our living room. Nothing obvious, just a small device that I could leave on when I went to work. I also ordered a few burner phones so I could communicate without her suspecting. Every move had to be perfect. I wanted her to see that I knew everything, that I was always one step ahead. That afternoon, I went to the local electronics store and bought the smallest covert camera I could find. As I was installing it behind a picture frame, I felt my hands trembling, part anger, part adrenaline. I kept telling myself this isn't just about revenge, it's about reclaiming myself. I'd been humiliated enough. If she thought she could cheat and get away with it, she had another thing coming. Once I had the camera set, I sent a simple message on the burner. We need to talk, and I mean now. I knew she'd see it when she got home. I wanted her to know I was onto her, that I had evidence. The moment I pressed send, my stomach twisted again, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. This was just the beginning. I didn't want to wait around. I wanted her to see that I was serious, so I called her on her regular phone, making sure she'd pick up. When she answered, her voice was unexpectedly calm. "Hey babe, what's up?" I kept my voice steady, cold even. "I know everything. I saw your messages. The plans, the babe, all of it, during my grandmother's funeral. How long has this been going on?" There was a silence on the other end, then she tried to play it off. "It's not what it looks like. I don't want to hear your excuses," I cut her off. "You're done. I've got everything on tape, every word. You're leaving tonight and I want you out of my house." Her voice cracked. "Please don't do this. We can fix it." "No, you can't," I spat. "You've betrayed me in the worst way and I'm not stupid enough to forgive that. You're finished. Pack your things and get out. We're done." I hung up before she could say another word. That's when I knew. I was finally in control again, and she was the one who'd regret crossing me. Later that evening, she arrived home looking nervous, eyes darting around. I was waiting in the living room, the camera's evidence ready to play on the screen. I handed her a folder with her things, told her to leave. As her bags hit the door, I finally looked her straight in the eyes for the first time since I found out. "Don't come back," I said coldly. "And don't bother trying to reach me. You threw everything away and I'll never forget it." She looked like she wanted to say something, but the words died in her throat. Instead, she turned and left, her footsteps echoing down the hall. That night I sat alone, feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, but I also took back my power. I knew she'd regret it. She'd lose everything just as I was about to rebuild myself. Now I'm left with a decision. Do I fight for what's left, or do I walk away for good? I know what I need to do, but it's not easy. Sometimes revenge isn't about justice. It's about reclaiming what's yours, and I'm just getting started. The days that followed felt like walking through a fog. Every time I saw her face or heard her name, my stomach clenched. The betrayal was still raw, but at least now I had the evidence, the plan, and the clarity to see it through. I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. I'd made sure of that. But the tricky part was deciding how deep I wanted to go, how far I was willing to push her to pay for what she'd done. After she left, I stayed up late that night, reviewing everything again. The footage from the hidden camera was clear, her and Mark's brother, Jake, in the living room, whispering and giggling like teenagers. Their faces, their bodies pressed close on that sofa. They didn't know I had it all. I watched it twice, then again. Each time, my jaw tightened, my fists clenched. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just hurt, I was furious, plotting. I knew I needed leverage. Not just to make her regret, but to ensure she'd never forget what she'd lost. And that's when the idea hit me. I'd make her think I knew about her affair with Mark long before I actually did. A little game of her own. If I could make her believe I had evidence she couldn't deny, I could control the narrative. So I planted a fake message thread on her phone, an edited version of what I'd already found with some added secrets, revealing her plans with Mark. Nothing too obvious, just enough to make her freak out. I wanted her to think I was always 2 steps ahead. I kept it subtle, but with enough detail to make her sweat. Next, I booked a hotel room downtown, one with a safe, a good view, and a discreet exit. I kept my plan simple. I'd confront her, but I'd also give her a taste of her own medicine. I wanted her to see that I could be just as manipulative, just as cold if I had to be. When I finally called her, I kept my voice calm. "We need to talk. Meet me at the Hilton downtown in an hour." I knew she'd be suspicious, but I wanted her to think I was desperate to fix things. That's when she called me back, her voice trembling, trying to sound normal. "Okay, I'll be there," she said. "What do you want?" "You'll see," I replied. "Just come alone." When she walked into that hotel lobby, I was already waiting in the corner watching her. Her face was tense, eyes flickering with guilt and fear. I didn't bother wasting time. I pulled out my phone and showed her the fake messages I'd planted. Her eyes widened like she'd seen a ghost. "Explain this," I said, voice low but steady. "I found your little secret. You're not just cheating, you're sneaking around with my best friend's brother. How long?" She looked like she'd been struck. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Instead, she looked down at her hands, trembling. I saw her trying to think of a lie, but I had her pinned. I wanted her to know I wasn't bluffing. I'd already gone further than I'd planned, and I wasn't stopping until she understood the stakes. "You thought you could betray me behind my back," I continued. "While I was grieving for my grandma, I hope you're proud of yourself." I let the silence stretch. "You're out of chances, it's over." She finally looked up, eyes glassy, voice shaking. "Please, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I love you, I was just confused." "Love," I spat. "You just threw everything away and now you want me to believe your fake tears. I've got proof you're done." I turned away, feeling a strange mixture of triumph and emptiness. Before she left, I handed her a sealed envelope. "That's the key to the house. You're not coming back. Take your stuff and get out today. I don't want to see you again." She hesitated, about to say something, but I cut her off. "Go, and don't bother trying to contact me. You lost your chance." Her shoulders sagged and she shuffled out, the door closing behind her with a heavy thud. Once she was gone, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, heart pounding. Yes, I'd done what I set out to do. I'd confronted her, made her believe I knew everything, and forced her to leave. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. The betrayal was gut-wrenching. Still, I couldn't help but wonder what comes next. Would she fight to come back? Would she try to twist everything around? Or was this truly the end? I poured myself a glass of whiskey, trying to calm the shaking inside. That's when I realized I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. But honestly, I didn't care. I'd taken control, and that's what mattered now. And as I sat there, feeling the cold burn of the liquor, I knew one thing. I'd never let someone betray me like that again. Not without paying the price. And I was just getting started. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. For the first few days, I felt a strange relief, like I'd finally taken back what was mine. But then, reality sank in. The house was eerily quiet without her footsteps, and every little thing reminded me of her betrayal. I kept replaying that moment in the hotel lobby, the way she looked, the trembling in her voice. It was a victory, sure, but it also left me feeling hollow, like I'd just burned a bridge I might need someday. I knew I couldn't just sit around dwelling on it. If I wanted to make her truly regret what she'd done, I had to go further. That's when I decided I'd take control of the situation in a way she'd never see coming. I wasn't just going to cut her out. I was going to make her pay by stripping her of everything she cared about. If she thought she could betray me and walk away, she had another thing coming. I started planning how to ruin her reputation, not in a petty way, but in a way that hit her where it hurt most. She loved her social media presence, posting pictures of her perfect life, her flawless smile. So I set my sights on that. I created a fake online profile, an account that looked just like hers but with just enough cracks to make people suspicious. I started posting little things, photos with her name, hints about her affair, stuff that would make her friends start questioning. I knew her circle well enough to predict who would see it first. It was subtle but effective. Her friends began messaging her, asking about strange posts. She called me furious, accusing me of hacking her account. I played innocent, acted like I had no idea what she was talking about. I swear I didn't do anything, I told her. Someone's messing with us. I could hear her panic and I loved every second of it. Meanwhile, I tracked her phone, secretly of course. I installed a GPS app so I could see her location in real time. I wanted her to feel watched, to know she was no longer in control. When she went out, I followed from a distance, making sure she knew I was always one step behind. It was about instilling fear, showing her I was everywhere. One day, I staged a chance encounter with her at a coffee shop. I made sure she saw me watching her, then casually approached. Her eyes widened and I watched her scramble to hide her phone. I leaned in close, whispering just loud enough for her to hear, "You thought you could cheat and get away with it. Not this time." Her face turned pale and I saw the realization dawn. I was proving I could ruin her life just by being present. That evening I sent her a final message. "You lost everything, your marriage, your reputation, your peace. Hope it was worth it." I knew she'd be devastated, but also aware that she was cornered. I'd created a web she couldn't escape. I'd made her see how vulnerable she'd left herself, how much I was willing to destroy her if she pushed me far enough. Her response was silence. She stopped calling. Her social media went dark. I knew she was spiraling and I didn't feel an ounce of guilt. She'd betrayed me during our hardest moments, and I was just making sure she understood the consequences. I had everything mapped out, every move, every twist. She was losing. Her grip and I was the one pulling the strings, but I wasn't finished. Not yet. My final move would be the knockout punch, something that would make her realize that betraying me was the worst mistake she ever made. I waited patiently, knowing that timing was everything. Patience, I reminded myself, was key. In the meantime, I made sure my own life stayed on track. I focused on work, kept my head clear, and avoided any impulsive decisions. I didn't want her to see me as a wreck. She needed to know I was still standing tall, even if inside I was bleeding. That's the real game, control. Not just revenge, but a total reset. And so I watched her from the shadows, knowing that soon she'd have nowhere left to run. I'd proven I was capable of so much more than she gave me credit for. Now, all that was left was to see how she'd react when everything came crashing down. Because at the end of the day, revenge isn't just about making someone suffer. It's about making them understand exactly how much they lost. And I was just about to make sure she learned that lesson deep. Week later, I knew I had pushed her to her breaking point. The silence from her side was deafening. Her social media was still inactive, and she kept avoiding her phone like it was a viper. I saw her leaving the house a few times, but each time she looked over her shoulder, nervously checking if I was watching. I made sure she felt exposed, vulnerable, trapped in her own guilt. That's when I decided it was time for the final move, the one that would crush her utterly. I had to think carefully about how to make her see that she couldn't escape the consequences. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal in a way she'd never forget. The idea struck me during a sleepless night, something cruel but necessary. I'd turn her own secrets against her. If she thought she was so clever sneaking around, I'd show her I'd found her weakness. Her own phone, her private life, would be her downfall. I had already installed a remote access app on her phone, so I could see everything she did. I watched her as she left the house that morning, her face tense, her hands trembling. I followed her discreetly, staying just out of sight, knowing the moment she got in her car she'd be trapped. I had arranged for a trusted friend to pick up her phone while she was distracted, so I could access it without her knowing. When she finally returned home that evening, I was waiting in the dark, the house silent except for the faint hum of the smart home system I'd hacked into. As she stepped inside, I activated my plan. I played her own secret messages on the speakers, her conversations with Mark, her flirtatious texts, the plans she'd made. Her face twisted with shock as her own words echoed around her, confirmation she'd been caught red-handed. She spun around, eyes wide and accusing. "What's going on? Who's doing this?" I stepped out of the shadows, voice cold and measured. "You know damn well who's behind this. You thought you could betray me and get away with it. Think again." Her eyes flooded with tears. "Please, I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You didn't mean for it. That's a load of crap," I shot back. "You lied, cheated, and broke my trust during my grandmother's funeral. You thought I wouldn't find out. You thought I'd just forget." She sank to her knees, trembling. "I was stupid. I was weak. I didn't want to lose everything. I swear I regret it." I felt my jaw tighten, the surge of anger boiling over. "Regret? That's rich. You can't undo what's done, but I can make sure you pay. You see, I've documented everything. Every message, every lie, every sneaky meeting. And now I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth." I pulled out my phone and played her messages for her, her voice trembling, her words exposed. Her face went pale. "You're going to ruin me," she whispered. "Ruin you?" I echoed. "No, I'm just showing everyone who you really are. I'm putting your secrets out there on social media, to our friends, to everyone who ever trusted you. You want to cheat behind my back, fine. But I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are." Her eyes flooded with tears as she begged, "Please don't do this. I'll do anything, just don't ruin me." I took a step closer, voice hard. "You've already ruined yourself. Only thing left is for everyone to see the truth, and it's about time they did." That night I posted everything, her secret messages, her lies, her plans. I made sure her friends saw her true face. I wanted her to understand that betrayal had consequences, and I was the one delivering them. The fallout was immediate. Friends texted her, some called her out publicly. She disappeared from social media, and I knew her reputation was crumbling. The final chapter was clear. I handed her the key to her apartment, told her to leave my house and never come back. I also filed the necessary papers to divorce her. As she packed her things, I watched her struggle, her eyes hollow. It was a bittersweet victory, one I'd fought hard for, but a victory nonetheless. Standing there as she walked out that door, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd taken everything from her that mattered: her trust, her reputation, her marriage. But the thing I realized most: I'd lost my own innocence in the process. Still, I knew I wouldn't let anyone betray me like that again. Not ever. So I did what I had to do. I handed over the keys, watched her disappear down the street, and finally closed that chapter of my life. Because revenge isn't just about making someone suffer. It's about reclaiming your dignity when someone else tried to strip it away. And I learned the hard way that sometimes you have to take control, even if it leaves scars. In the days that followed, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, balancing between relief and a gnawing emptiness. The house was eerily silent without her. The betrayal had torn through everything I thought I knew about her, and about myself. Every corner, every room, seemed to whisper reminders of what had been lost. I looked at the empty space where she used to sleep, the unopened boxes of her things still sitting in the corner. It's strange how a person's absence can make a house feel colder, emptier, like it's holding its breath. I knew I'd done what I set out to do: expose her lies, destroy her reputation, and leave her with nothing but the wreckage of her choices. I handed her the keys, watched her walk away, and finally shut the door behind her. That act felt like closing a chapter I'd been cruelly forced to read. It was final. There was no turning back now. As I sat alone that evening, a strange calm settled over me. I poured myself a drink, looked out at the dark street outside, and let the silence soak in. I'd been angry, betrayed, humiliated, but I was also free. Free from the lies, the betrayal, the weight of her secrets. I realized that revenge had given me back my power, even if it came at a cost. It reminded me that sometimes the only way to reclaim yourself is to burn everything down and start fresh. In the quiet, I reflected on what I'd learned. Trust is fragile, I thought, especially when someone shows you their true face. I'd been naive, believing in the fairy tale, but that belief had almost cost me everything. Now I knew better. The only person responsible for protecting your peace is yourself. No one else will do it for you. Not your wife, not your friends, not anyone. The fallout was intense. Her reputation was shattered, her social circle torn apart by the truth. I heard from mutual friends, some sympathetic, others angry. Few told me I'd gone too far, that I'd let anger consume me. Maybe they had a point, but I didn't care. I'd never let someone betray me and walk away unscathed. That's not how I see justice. Looking back, I realized the revenge was more about reclaiming my dignity than hurting her. I needed her to see that her actions had consequences and that I wasn't going to be a victim. I wanted her to understand that betrayal leaves scars, and sometimes those scars are the only way to rebuild what's broken. Now, I'm rebuilding my life piece by piece. It's not easy, and I still feel the sting of everything that happened. But I've learned something invaluable. The worst betrayals can teach us the most about who we really are. I won't forget what she did. I'll carry that pain as a reminder, but I won't let it define me. In the end, I hope she realizes what she lost, not just me, but the trust and respect of everyone around her. And I hope she takes that lesson to heart, though I doubt she ever will. As for me, I'm moving forward. The house is empty, but my mind is. I'll keep my guard up and I'll never let someone tear me down like that again. Because, at the end of the day, revenge isn't just about revenge. It's about finding your strength when everything's falling apart. And I've finally found mine.